I've always liked to think of the River Deben as a nice clean place and a place that I can enjoy bathing in and having fun. But now it's something that I question. I do feel very cautious, and I'm thinking about this spring and summer and thinking about, whether I'm not going to be having the same enjoyment. There was an occasion, I think it was the first swim of the year, which was at slack water, high tide, which is the time I prefer to swim at high tide with the fresh water coming in. Not only did I have a skin rash, I actually felt very unsteady when I came out of the water. I was quite disorientated. That was really, really quite worrying. In fact, the harbour master thought I was having a stroke, but it wasn't a stroke.
So I think there's something very interesting around our acceptance of pollution. The whole story around air pollution and the link between air pollution and ill health, what's gone on in London. But unfortunately, rivers have forgotten that pollution in our water that affects us as swimmers isn't seen, people aren't so conscious of it, and there isn't as much awareness of that damage. But there's no doubt that those of us who know the river would choose not to swim at certain points of the tide, low tide in particular, would choose not to swim at Woodbridge if it had been raining and you're concerned that there'd be overflow of raw sewage into the water.
We obviously heard about all of the sewage discharge that was happening in rivers around the UK, so we started looking at what was happening in our own river. What we found, disturbingly, is that there are high levels of E. coli and nitrates all along the River Deben. We've set up a little programme in conjunction with a lot of the parish councils that touch the Deben, and they are now beginning to do their own testing all the way up along the river from here up to Debenham.
Well, it's popular here. We have a footpath across the fields. These are grazing meadows, but people do walk. They have picnics, and children and young people do jump in and out of the river on a hot day. We live in a beautiful area. We look after our landscape. I think it's incumbent on us to do our best to ensure that the water quality is safe and that we've got clean water. Yoghurt pot, which is sterilised, and fill this with water. So we've got to make sure it's not contaminated. It's quite a long way down there. E. coli may not be an issue for nature at large, but it is an issue for humans, and it can lead to nasty infections. So if we know that people are enjoying being in the water, then we want to make sure it's safe for them. We don't need a huge amount of water, but I think we've probably got enough. Then we seal the test tube, and we need to write the date in the plate. We take our water samples to colleagues in Woodbridge at the moment, where they are tested.
Well, we've got your sample incubated for 24 hours, and I'm afraid we've got quite a lot of E. coli on it. We've got 13 colonies formed after 24 hours in the incubator, and the ideal, of course, would be 0. Here we are, 13 there.
So that's not good.
We'll collate this information and we'll work with the university in Ipswich, and we will see exactly what we've got. But initially we are finding that the E. coli level in the river water is a lot higher than we want it to be.
take a water sample, we bring it back into the lab, and then we use these small discs and put one mil or a little bit of water onto these discs, and then we incubate overnight at 37 degrees, so like body temperature. And if there's bacteria in there, then they grow and they become blue. The government guidelines for swimming in fresh waters is to have 5 of those blue dots per circle. The bigger picture from when we originally started this work was looking at not just E. coli and sewage discharge, but pesticides, pharmaceuticals and illicit drugs in the water and in the organisms that were in there. And it was quite an interesting study because the first sample that we actually got data back was from the top of the Deben, and it showed cocaine in these shrimps. But the interesting thing from that study was that we also found banned pesticides and a number of other illicit drugs and obviously pharmaceuticals as well. So there's a wider issue here with pollution within our rivers.
We'd like to talk to the water company, Anglian Water, and we'd like to talk with the Environment Agency as well. And we'd like to see how we can work together to monitor this. We're quite happy to do the monitoring. Citizen science is what we're using. We're enlisting volunteers in the town to get involved in it. We'll be working with some school children and they'll be taking samples. Some of the schools will be getting involved themselves. They'll be doing some field trips in the summer term. If you could just write the date and time on the label there.
What's the date?
9th.
I feel that polluting it kind of like ruins the environment, and like there's ducks in the river and there's fish in the river, and there's so many things in the river that are living and it harms them, and I feel that's really, well, it's really cruel.
Very disgusted at what the world's come to, like flushing sewage in the water.
It's not good for the environment. It's not good at all, to be honest. Just looking at it makes me feel a bit sick. I guess we do have to do something about it, so that's why I'm here.
When we started looking at this, we started to hear stories about people who had been very sick after swimming in the Deben, but they'd not had anything to put it down to or to ascribe it to. Now we know what the problem is in some cases.
The discharge that we're seeing coming in from sewage treatment works is quite astounding. It's not just in this area, it's not just on the Deben, it seems to be widespread, and profits do seem to be ahead of biodiversity, which is a bit of a shame. So that's where at the present moment in time I'm not that optimistic until we get a shift in the way that we regulate and the way that we respect our wildlife, including in the rivers. I think if we continue the way that we're going with discharge of sewage into the River Deben that's unchecked, unprocessed, then we are looking at a situation where the quality of the River Deben is going to deteriorate quite rapidly.
This problem is at this level in the winter. It will get worse in the summer as the water gets warmer. If necessary, we're going to have to put up signs which ask people not to swim in the river at certain times of the year.
I think we know how important these spaces are. We know how important this river is. We know that the water companies aren't being taken to task because the Environment Agency doesn't have the resources. Not that it's not willing, it just hasn't got the resources. So it leaves it to us. It's a citizen's responsibility. We need to nurture this environment, we need to take responsibility for it, we need to do something about it.